FM Lagos. You can catch the live stream and post a comment on there as well. Our analysts this morning, Mr. C and Gbubemi, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, Presidente. Good morning, Gbubemi. Good morning, Lagos. And let's get ready for the weekend.
Amen to that. Let's start off with the Daily Trust. The Niger State House of Assembly has urged the state government to reduce the number of working days for civil servants to cushion the effects of the petrol subsidy removal.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you very much, Zibby. Niger State is the latest state to propose exploring the option of reducing the number of working days as a result of the consistent increases in the price of petrol and also consequentially as a result of the floating of the naira. Now, this proposal is coming from the Niger State House of Assembly, and they're saying that to alleviate the cost of workers coming to work, maybe they should reduce the number of days. Now, in itself, it's not a bad proposal because the reality of the matter is the current national minimum wage is clearly no longer sustainable, feasible, or realistic. And that is why Labour and the current administration have been in talks since with a view to increasing the amounts. Now, any such proposed increase will be predicated on the availability of funds give give effect to any declared increase. Now, Niger State is particularly interesting because it's not one of those Nigerian states that is renowned or famous for commerce or industry. It's literally more like a rural agrarian state. And to think that they're not requesting that we reduce the number of working hours. And in related news, which is not here, the Niger State government has increased the number of state ministries from 25 to 40. The same Niger State. So it begs the question: what exactly is going on there? What's what's driving the thought process there? Because truly, when the workers do not come to work, are they working? Will they be working remotely? And the ability to work remotely is also predicated on the presence of strong internet penetration within the state. Now, there are certain categories of civil servants who cannot do remote work. So, for example, your cleaners, your messengers, your admin officers, junior admin officers who process files, who stamp, receive documents, and transport them and move them around. They can't do that from their homes due to the sensitive nature of government documents. Two, this proposal to reduce the number of working days, does it also include a reduction in the salary? Because I think it will be a bit strange to pay people for 5 days every week and then they only turn up for three. That means the state is losing money. And in this season the country finds itself in, what is actually required to drive us out of this current predicament is increased productivity, not people taking days off because of the challenges associated with the fuel price increase. The state government should be more innovative, partner with the private sector, get buses onto the road, electric buses, subsidize the cost of transport. You can issue civil servants with transport cards, maybe discount transport fares discounted 30%, 40%, that sort of thing. And they also now have to start thinking midterm, long term. How do we solve the transportation issue? Do you then set up a real system within the state or within the major towns in the state to connect towns to the capital? These are questions they need to consider. But this pedestrian approach to reducing the number of days will not help us long term. It's short termist, it's populist, but ultimately very little value productivity wise.
States like Kaduna State have had a 4-day working week for a while now, and this was during the former regime. And the essence was to spend 1 day working on the farm. So, I mean, if people are taking 1 day off work and they're being productive in other ways, helping to feed their families, I mean, it's a plus. Do you think perhaps this could work in Niger State if they are technically not in the office, but they're being productive in other ways.
Okay, so not everyone is called to farming, right? So I'll use myself as an example. I'm not called to farming.
We can tell.
So, so if you give me a day off to farm, you've actually wasted that day because I'll probably use it for something else. But what is key is we need state governments, we need houses of assembly, we need legislatures at national and subnational levels to be more, to show more intelligence, show more creativity in the way they come up with strategies to manage the situations we find ourselves in, and not populist moves. Populist moves long term never end well.
All right, let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at smooth981. And we're streaming live on YouTube, so you can post a comment on there and catch the live stream. Shagun says reduction in working days, increase in ministries. Niger State will get away with it because state governments are not really held to account now that they are receiving 3 times their allocation. All right, and let's move on to the next headline. Gbubemi, this one is for you. Okay, from Vanguard, current hardship, suffering of workers unacceptable, and this is according to the Nigeria Labour Congress.
Okay, so the lead president of the Nigeria Labour Congress was at a meeting together with the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, another organized labor group, and Nigeria Employers Consultative Association (NECA), which is like a private sector led interest group. And apparently, he was referring to an MOU that they had signed sometime in 2020, which was geared towards promoting the health of Nigerians, boosting productivity, protecting jobs, and preserving the means of livelihood of workers. The truth of the matter is, as we've all rightly noted, things have gone bad and things will get worse. Um, we sort of had an inkling that things were going to be like this ever since during the election period, for example, when many of the candidates had said things like, "Oh, we're going to take off for subsidy, blah blah blah." But our expectation was that okay, if you do A, you will do B to cushion the effect of A. Which is what we're not exactly seeing right now. So it's interesting that the NLC has come out to note that this suffering is unbearable. One of the questions I'd like to ask is, where was the NLC during the process leading up to the elections, during the elections, and even after the elections? So I know that the leadership have met with the president. I think they met with the president after the first fuel price increase, or just around that period, where they had threatened the strike, and they had a meeting, and then next time we saw them all smiling in their photowops. So I'm wondering, okay, so what did you people discuss then that doesn't seem to hold true now? And for me, the way I see it is the NLC should, and the TUC as organized labor should be at the forefront of championing workers' rights, which we haven't really seen much effect of in recent times. Lots of people have even alluded to the fact that they more rather champion their own rights than the rights of the general workers. There's something that the president said that I'd like to also point out. He says, sadly, the promise of cushioning palliatives by government is being managed in a way that nibbles away the confidence of the social partners on the sincerity of government to make the heavy load of the so-called subsidy removal lighter on our people. So I would have expected that they would have also been at the forefront of the discussions of the palliatives. We had noted ever since the last administration that there was a committee that was set in place over a year ago, which had like a year to come up with palliatives, which they never did. We never had anything, the NLC say anything about that, pre this administration. Even when the fuel price was increased and they met with the president, whatever it was that they had discussed must have been palatable to them, because we didn't hear from them sufficiently after that. So my call to them is that we need to see a more long-lasting impact of their involvement in championing workers' rights across the country, not just at the federal level, but also at the state level. Because even as we talk about palliatives for workers, we look at the federal level, we look at the state level as well, and more likely at the state level because the states have a closer relationship with the people. So it all boils down at the end of the day to what is it, you know, that the governments, the various governments will do to be able to alleviate the suffering of people. And then also, how can NLC ensure that they insert themselves in the accountability process to ensure that governments actually do something tangible. So we'd heard, talks about the 8,000 naira per family per month thing, which thankfully appears to have been cancelled. So the question now is, what next? Will the government put up? And how will NLC make sure that they can insert themselves in that process, such that the government actually comes up with palliatives that will actually alleviate the sufferings of a good number of the people?
All right, thank you, Gbubemi. El Como says local, state, and federal governments should emulate Ogun State by leading and subsidizing public transportation costs for conversion kits to CNG use. The WhatsApp number is 0809 From Vanguard, the House of Representatives yesterday resolved to suspend the concession of airports in the country, which was pursued by the past government of President Muhammadu Buhari.
Okay, so thank you, Zibby. So under the just departed administration of President Buhari, some of key airports were seemingly concessioned under circumstances that appear not to have been too transparent or made public. And the House of Representatives has now said that the concessioning should be put on hold while it makes a review. Now, it's no surprise that this is happening in the same aviation sector that was headed by the former minister Hadi Sirika. Now, he was a minister who was known for a lot of controversies whilst he held sway at the helm of affairs in Nigeria's aviation industry, and this is just another controversy that is linked or attached to his tenure there. Now, when you are concessioning public assets such as airports, the process must be transparent. We must know who the bidders are. We must know their pedigree. We must know what they're offering to bring to the table. So, who are the technical partners of whatever bid consortium has put in a bid? What is the period? What should we expect to see from such concessioning over a period of time? Now, it's no secret that when you look at the airports in Africa, none of the airports in Nigeria, I dare say, is in the top 10. Because we look at international airports from South Africa to Ghana to Egypt to Morocco, even to Rwanda to Ethiopia. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's the truth. Our airports are a big joke. If they're not hot, they're rowdy, all sorts of unidentified urchins and miscreants milling all over the place. And then just the conduct of even the office of the officials there, who are always asking, where are you going? What did you bring for us? As if it was a joint trip, it was a joint venture trip, and they partly funded or fully funded the trip outside or your trip back. It really makes no sense. And even the environment isn't clean enough. You go to some of the bathrooms, water is a problem. It's just one big joke. And if we're to regain our status as the giant of Africa, we need to start putting things in order, putting things together properly. And I believe that we should review the concessioning. Let's even know whether we've even concessioned these airports to the right people. Because, for example, there's no reason why Kano should not have major passenger traffic. There's no reason why Lagos cannot be a 24-hour airport. We've been to countries where we have 24-hour airports. That's not the case here. Then at our airports, I just remember this. You are there, the power goes off, which is truly, truly ridiculous. So yes, I support the House of Reps committee. Nothing, and I'm assuming they're going to do this investigation properly in any event. So let's see what comes out of it.
All right, thank you so much for that, Mr. C. You're listening to Freshly Pressed. Do stay with us. The show continues.
I become rich and famous. I didn't mean to put it back. Kotoka. Have you been to Kotoka?
Kotoka.
The
Yeah, I
airport
have.
there.
In fact, so when they renovated, I saw
Hi
the
people,
pictures.
my name is Praise, and if you want good music,
Looks
stay
like a
tuned to
regular
As in,
airport
Smooth
to me too.
98.1.
no, when you judge with
The
the
Nigerian one.
Nigerian
Watching
airport,
you
Oh,
move, it's
okay.
like
ours
And
looks
it's
listening
like a
small
to
to
bus
be
a
fair.
station.
symphony of body parts
Well, Ghana is
directed by a
small.
maestro. When you walk,
Eh, but have
it
you
is like
seen
watching a
Ethiopia's
G
airport?
clef stroll across
Olu
an
airport.
octave accented by
No.
a C
I've been
sharp.
there. I've been there.
When
Really
you
good?
talk, the
What?
cadence of your voice
Fantastic.
is a tenor
We're
saxophone,
just
making
playing.
love to a
That's
cello at perfect
we're just
pitch.
playing.
And
I
you
dread
are
that
so
airport,
smooth.
man. This Lagos airport is
That's why we keep it
horrible.
here on
Okay, anything
98.1.
for us? I
This is
didn't know
just
that you were
music.
going to be here or
Signing
that I brought something for you.
That's weird. They don't really ask me for stuff.
Eh,
No, me, I changed. So if you ask me, I was hoping to collect from you.
Okay.
Don't touch that dial.
Okay. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Our analyst this morning, Mr. C. Gbubemi, and of course, it's me, Zibby. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. And you can also tweet at Smooth981 as well. Don't forget the live stream is up on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth 981 FM Lagos. From Premium Times, the Senate has urged employees of labor in the country to de-emphasize age requirements as a precondition for employment. Now, the resolution was sequel to a consideration and adoption of a motion at plenary yesterday.
so it's a pity that we're still having this discussion about age requirements for work in 2023. Considering that, ironically, some of the organizations who even tout an age requirement clause probably have it in their staff handbooks that they don't discriminate along age, gender, race, blah blah blah. I always laugh when I see those adverts. Anyway, so the way I see it is one of the reasons we still have this is going back to the NLC as well. The weak um I don't want to use the word action, but the weak involvement of the NLC across board. So some of these organizations are obviously clearly unionized um, organizations as well. And the NLC, to the best of my knowledge, has not spoken up regarding this. There's also the fact that we have weak labor laws. So our current labor laws are from, I think, I can't remember exactly when, but I know that they're as old as 20 years, if not more than that. And I know that in the last few years, there have been moves to review it by the CIPM, which is Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, NECA, the Ministry of Labor and Employment, and a few other related bodies, in the employment space. That review has not been completed. Hopefully, when that review is completed and the Labor Act is enforced, then we would see a lot more of these actions being de-emphasized. So as to having to promulgate a law against this, I'm not quite sure if that is necessary, because if we had a fit for purpose labor law, it would already address that. Yeah, and then considering also the fact that we are parties to a number of other international acts which we've signed up to, for example, like with the ILO and with the United Nations. We the emphasis on ensuring that organizations do not require an age requirement, and enforcement should be very, very high. So we even have a situation where we don't just hear about this age requirements, we also see it in adverts that are published on social media or on traditional media and newspapers, which obviously shows that the organizations are either unaware, which is unlikely, or do not care because they know that nothing will happen. So I think at the point of enforcement, if enforcement is properly done by, for example, the Ministry of Employment, so with support from like the NLC, for example, we would see less and less of these requirements for people to be below a certain age to apply for jobs.
All right, speaking about the NLC, they're very outspoken, particularly when it comes to matters surrounding money. But do you think that they truly understand that it goes way beyond that and they have to be looking out for the overall rights of the Nigerian worker?
Sometimes I wonder about that. I'm not quite sure that they actually understand. Also, there's also the fact that the NLC looks out more for the unionized workers in that sense, because
Mm,
those are people who are their members, quote and unquote, and they may be detached from the realities of the employment situation generally across the whole country, private sector, public sector, and all of that.
So I just want to check this in, right? So, so both of you speak to understanding, but shouldn't there be a knowledge first that precedes the understanding? Because you cannot understand what you don't know.
mm. All right, let's go on to the messages coming through. Tayo says, I've seen videos of a leaking airport and reports of the airport going dark. Imagine the impression it would create to first time visitors. Ajayi says, there will be no end to increase in petroleum products as long as we depend on importation amidst the free fall of the naira in the foreign exchange market. And this one is from Chido. He says, probing airport concessioning sounds like a good idea on the face of it. However, the House of Reps must understand that they suffer an acute trust deficit from the public arising from previous probes, allegations of graft against members of probe committees. Action is nothing, motive is everything. And Francis says that age requirement limits the worst thing that's happened to the Nigerian workspace. Imagine spending 5 years and above for a 4 year course in school, then NYSC, and then job hunting. And employers will be searching for a minimum entry of 26. And the contract jobs by banks and other organizations need to be prohibited by the government. It's never fair on the employees. NLC should work and not just talk. All right. 0809 440 from Punch. The 6th Division Nigerian Army in Port Harcourt has intercepted a truck conveying about 16,000 litres of illegally refined diesel in Ahoda East in River States.
Okay, so thank you, Zibby. So I read the story and I chuckled. So congratulations to the army for seizing a truck full of illegally loaded petroleum. And also congratulations to them for failing to arrest a single human being with the truck, because I want to presume the truck was not being remote driven. So they were so gallant in seizing the product, but nobody to be prosecuted, nobody to be investigated, which is in line with what has been happening lately in that sector, especially the Niger Delta area. The other day we heard of a vessel that was found with illegally loaded crude. What did they do? They destroyed the boat. How does that make any sense? Should you not be arresting individuals so we can even get to the root of what is going on there? Because when you arrest the foot soldiers, they will then lead you to the people who instructed them or who engaged them to carry out the act. So what we see is no real attempt to get to the root cause of the illegal smuggling and diversion of crude oil from legal pipelines, but just an attempt to curry media headlines, media favor, and appear to be working. So you've seized the product, right? What are you going to do with the product? Are you going to return it? Who are you giving it to? Is it going to be sold illegally? What exactly is going to happen? Now, the truck has registration details. I want to believe it has registration details. So somewhere in Nigeria, that truck should have been registered. Will there be a follow-up process whereby they visit the registry, get the details of who the truck was registered to initially, and comment an investigation? Now, if the person who's registered says the truck was stolen, then you will have to provide evidence, and then you follow it up until you get at least one individual or two who can assist you with your investigations. Now, from the body of the story, there's nothing to suggest any further investigation will be done. So this is really in line with the absurdity that is Nigeria today, and the security agencies can do a lot better.
All right, we're moving on to Daily Trust. AIG warns police officers against harassing people.
Sound bites. So we hear this all the time. Don't harass people. Police is your friend. We're removing all checkpoints. Yeah, you should not check people's phones. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. You know, all we hear are don't do this, don't do that, but we don't see any implications for people who go against these rules. So it's okay for him to come out and say, "Oh, the police shouldn't harass people," but they will, and they will continue to do it. And almost none of them will be held accountable. So my point is, you shouldn't even bother telling them, because I'm sure that they do all sorts of orientation exercises where they tell them these things all of the time, but they still go ahead and they extort people, they harass them. So my what I would like to see is a situation where they will begin to hold these officers accountable, up onto what the highest levels, whatever their disciplinary processes are. For officers who are found culpable of harassing people, unfair arrests, extorting people, all those things, punish them. Let's know that these people face the law. If their colleagues see what happens to people who err, then that should probably serve as a deterrent. But if there's no punishment for these people, then obviously all these things, like I said, will just keep on being sound bites.
Okay, so let me quickly jump in on this. Now, the current IGP has been consistent, and I think there's a new policy in place within the Nigeria Police Force that where junior officers are found to have misconducted themselves in the line of duty, the officers who were meant to be supervising them would also be punished. So let's see how far they can carry this out. But also, they need to be very clear, consistent, and precise with how they communicate these instructions, because signals have to be sent. And until the signals are sent, the rank and file cannot act upon those instructions.
Do you think we'll ever get to a point where the citizens and the police can both work harmoniously, where there's trust between them? Wow. What
Maybe
is
in
going
another
on?
lifetime.
Really? So you're not holding your breath?
At all.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's go on to the next headline. This comes from Punch. The Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde says his administration is taking what it's calling strategic steps to empower its young population and leverage the energy sector for economic growth.
Okay, thank you, Zibby. Now, this sounds very catchy, sounds very intelligent, but is very short on details. So, there was a lecture series organized in Ibadan last week by the Center for Petroleum Energy Economics and Law at the University of Ibadan International Energy Services Limited. And the Oyo State Governor, who was represented at the lecture, did say that he was planning to leverage the young population of Oyo with a view to them engaging in the energy sector and deriving optimal benefits from it. Now, on paper, like I said, that sounds very good. It's no, so the the detail. So the devil is in the details, right? How are you going to do it beyond the headline, beyond the soundbite? What is the process? Do they need to be educated? Is the University of Ibadan going to offer tailor-made courses to enable them derive the maximum benefits from the energy sector? Are you going to partner with private sector and companies to provide funding, to provide mentorship, to provide guidance, to provide direction with a view to harnessing these economic benefits? Are you going to set up economic tax-free zones for them to work? So very short on details, sound bites, attention-grabbing headline, and let's see whether anything will come out of this.
All right. That is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for your messages. And of course, special thanks to our analysts this morning, Mr. C and Gbubemi. Mr. C is recovering from his birthday. I hope you had a brilliant birthday, Mr. C.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it was his birthday yesterday. Okay. All right. That's all the time. Thank you so much for being with us, but don't go anywhere because it continues. It will be time for the grapevine in just about 15 minutes. Stay with us.
The headlines, the stories, the news.